Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the commissioner meeting this morning. If you will, join me for a moment of silent prayer and then the pledge of allegiance afterwards. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments. We have no public comments. Is there anyone here that wishes to make a comment? If not, we'll move on to recognitions. We have any recognitions? If not, we will move on to the agenda. I need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I need to add to the closed session on our agenda. I need to add item 143-318, period 11, parentheses A, parentheses 4, to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body.
We'll do roll call vote. Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeffries. Aye. Commissioner Owen.
Aye.
Commissioner Ostriker. Aye. Commissioner McVeigh. Aye. Is Commissioner Carter or Dickerson on? Neither one are on. Okay. Motion carries. It's added to the agenda. I need approval of the consent agenda for March 21st, 22 regular meeting minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. We'll do roll call voting. All those in favor, Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Jeffries. Aye. Commissioner Owen.
Aye.
Commissioner Ostriker. Aye. Commissioner McVeigh. Aye. Presentation of Child Fatality Prevention Team Report. Daniel Elmore and Emily Hodges.
Right.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners and County Manager. My name is Danielle Elmore.
Sir Mike on.
It's on. Just talk a little louder. Talk a little louder. Good morning, Board of Commissioners, County Manager, and community. My name is Danielle Elmore. I am the Health Fatality Chairperson. I work at the Ccboc County Health Department, and I have the care coordinator with me. Her name is Emily Hodges. We are presenting the Child Fatality Report for Ccboc County from last year's reports. The purpose of the Child Fatality Prevention Team is to identify system things that happen to children that contributed to their deaths. And the purpose of our review, we meet each quarter. If we don't have any deaths for our community, then we don't have to do a report to submit to the state. So we try to focus on trainings to help us when we are reviewing these cases. So I'm going to read to you what our review system is. A child's death is a tragic event. The Child Fatality Prevention Team is a multidisciplinary group charged to review all child fatalities in Ccboc County, occurring in children between the ages of birth through 17. The purpose is to identify the causes of the child's death. Number 2, identify gaps or deficiencies that may exist in order to improve the delivery of services to children and families. 3, we make recommendations for changes and carry out changes that could prevent future child fatalities. Number 4, we educate our community on how to prevent children from dying in our county. Child fatality prevention team usually reviews fatalities from the previous year. The membership for this team comes from our community. And in your packets is listed with each person that is not their name, but what organization they represent. The process, we gather the information regarding the case, and we present it at the meetings in systematic fashion. Contributing factors to the death are identified. The team makes recommendations for preventing future child fatalities. Child fatality meetings are confidential and are closed to the public. Confidentiality statement is signed by each member at the start of our meeting. Teams follow a protocol and procedure manual along with the guidelines. If you need more information on child fatality teams, it is found on the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services under child fatality, and we'll give you more information. Asshole County had one death that we reported on last year. You'll find that information in your packet. The death was due to SIDS, and our system problem was the child passed away from SIDS. Our recommendations is to bring awareness to the parents here in Castle County. The health department will provide detailed trainings during the perinatal period when the mom comes in for her 3rd trimester visit and the 2 to 5 day visit for the infant. And this is a flyer that we pass out, and it's a website, I think we put it in your packets, that we guide the parents to look at, urge the parents to look at, and there they can get different tips on how to prevent SIDS from happening. Thank you, that is our report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel,
No.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Commissioner.
Yes, I have one, you mentioned the flyer and the training.
I can get that to you.
Well, can you just tell me some of the tips now so it'll be on the record?
Co-sleeping is one of them, so you don't want to co-sleep with the child. So Sarah is our Ccboc social worker, and she is housed at the health department. So we have funding that she gives out pack and plays, and this encourages the parent not to sleep with the baby. And then at one point, we used to do the cardboard boxes for the parents to put the baby into instead of them sleeping with them. So when they come to their appointments, we go over all of this. Smoking is another leading cause, so we encourage the parents not to smoke around the infant. And the website for that is safesleep.org. It's a North Carolina website. And then the flyer, I can get you a copy of the flyer so that you all can have it for your reference.
Thank you.
safesleepnc.org is the website.
Any more questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion items, devices for commissioners. Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, you had this on your last agenda. No, there was no decision made on how you wanted to proceed. We bring it back to you today. We know that several commissioners are in need of new devices. With the current devices, there have been some issues downloading emails and just operational issues in general. We submitted to you last time a small laptop and an iPad. Both the laptop obviously would come with a keyboard. The iPad can be equipped with a keyboard as well as a mouse. The iPad is substantially cheaper than the laptop. However, the laptop gives you much more functionality, more storage. So it's really up to the board what the board would like. Our IT director has said it would probably be best if all commissioners got this same device. However, that's not a requirement. We can do whatever the board wants to mix and match. We can certainly entertain that. But it's really up to the board's discretion what the board chooses to do at this point in time.
Any questions, Mr. Miller? Go ahead.
Is there any reason we can't keep using the Surface Pro? Other than it's nice to have everybody have the same thing? I'm not sure what benefit that accrues.
No, I mean, if the board chooses to continue using Surface Pro, that's fine. You can certainly do that. I just know there have been some issues with a few commissioners being able to download emails, and just operationally, the Surface Pros haven't seemed to work as well as at least the iPad in the past. We've not tried laptops.
Well, I finally figured out my Surface Pro, so I'm happy.
Any more questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
There's a bad echo when I'm listening to the discussion and I'm on Zoom, so it's coming back through. I did not understand the last part Mr. Miller was talking about. So what is the consensus on the Surface Pros? Are you continuing to go with those, or what's going on?
Commissioner Dickerson, I don't believe that there's been a consensus reached at this point in time. By the board.
I just know that the Surface Pro for me has been very problematic, and I cannot reliably get the email. Mine is still in the possession of the IT department. I'm relying on my personal email through my phone to be able to communicate with county business. Something different needs to be done.
I think the question that was asked was, could an individual commissioner keep the Microsoft Surface, even if the other members of the board went with something else?
Yes, we're happy to mix and match. Our IT director did say that just from logistically, it would be better if everybody had the same thing, but it does make it impossible for some members of the board to have different devices. So we're happy to do that if that's what the board would like. We're happy for some to have iPads, some to have Surface Pros, whatever the board would like to do.
Any more questions?
So, commissioners, just to move this off of the even keel, why don't you, as individual commissioners, if you would like a new device, why don't you contact me, and if the board would approve this at this point in time, the individuals, commissioners can contact me if you wish to have a new device. And if that be the case, then we'll order a new device for that individual commissioner and just move forward with it.
That's fine with me.
Based upon the preferences of that individual commissioner.
Anybody have any problem with that? Do you need a motion on that?
Yeah, I think it would be much clearer if there were a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to allow individual commissioners to contact our county manager as far as these devices are concerned, and let him proceed with that information.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? If not, we'll do roll call voting. Commissioner Dickerson? Mr. Howell? Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Mr. Ostrander? McVeigh? Aye. Motion carries. HIDO timeline, Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, you will find in your agenda packet a timeline for the HIDO meeting that you requested at your last meeting. So you'll see that if the planning board holds a special meeting between March 28th and April 12th, then we, as the Board of Commissioners can run an advertisement for a public hearing the week of April 6th and the 13th as public notice. Hold the public hearing on April 18th at your second meeting. That would occur at 6:30 p.m. and then the board could rule on that from there. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the process. I know the county attorney's on with us. He may have some insight to that as well, but that's the way the process is outlined at this point in time.
Any questions for Mr. Miller on the high-level timeline? Hearing none, we'll move on to action items. Broadband resolution.
Commissioners, you'll find at your desk a resolution on broadband. It's a resolution by the Castle County Board of Commissioners, broadband resolution, Castle County broadband access. A resolution to partner with Spectrum CCO Holdings Charter Communications to provide certain county funds from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to partner with Spectrum to fund the construction of broadband infrastructure in certain areas of Castle County. Whereas broadband service is vital to the economic development of Castle County, and whereas the American Rescue Plan Act provided funding to Castle County, which can be used to promote broadband services, and whereas Spectrum is a retail provider of communication services, including the provision of broadband services to portions of Castle County. And whereas Spectrum intends to apply for the great grant under the North Carolina Rural Economies with Access to Technology Act to provide broadband services to identified unserved areas of Castle County. And whereas Castle County strongly supports the grant application of Spectrum, and whereas if Spectrum is selected by the North Carolina Broadband Infrastructure Office to receive state physical recovery funds for the Castle County project, then Castle County will contribute a portion of its ARPA funds up to $250,000 to support the project based on the total amount awarded by the state. And whereas the infrastructure to be completed shall be owned and operated by Spectrum. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Castle County Board of Commissioners that Castle County offers a partnership agreement to Spectrum for the express purpose of supporting Spectrum's great grant application to construct fiber to the home broadband services for specified unserved areas of Castle County as agreed upon by the Castle County and Spectrum. 2, should the great grant application be successfully awarded to Spectrum, Castle County shall contribute their match portion up to $250,000 from the county's ARPA funds for the project. The broadband services and infrastructure related thereto shall be owned and operated by Spectrum. Adopted this 4th day of April 2022. Commissioners, this is a resolution specifically for Spectrum and $250,000, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5% match of the project. And once again, that's for calls. The county received less than $8 million in ARPA funds. The match was limited to up to $250,000. So what I would say is Spectrum, to this point, is the only internet service provider that's contacted the county to provide a great grant application. The county would, if approved by the board, the county would also entertain the same type of agreement with any other broadband internet service provider up to 5% of their project cost, which is a proportional cost of the project, if they wish to apply and become partners with the county.
Excuse me, questions?
Mr. Miller, I wasn't quite expecting that second part. Would that imply that we would have to spend up to $500,000 out of the ARPA thing?
No, sir.
A total of 250.
No, sir. So, to be clear, the Spectrum is the only company thus far that has approached them. Spectrum, to the best of my knowledge, intends on applying for all unserved areas available through the GRAPE grant in North Carolina, or in Castle County. So if another company were to receive funding instead of Spectrum, that would decrease proportionally the amount of the match needed that would go to Spectrum, and therefore be given to another internet service provider.
Okay, so the total is 250,000.
Yes.
And just as a matter of picking, should this be Spectrum Charter, or is that necessary?
Well, I think I spelled it out in the resolution. It's Spectrum CCO Holdings, Charter.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any more discussion? If not, we'll do roll call voting. Commissioner Dickerson. Can't hear you, Commissioner.
Yes.
Commissioner Howell. Commissioner Jeffries. Commissioner Owen. Mr. Odenstreicher.
Aye.
McVeigh. Aye. Motion carries. National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, in your agenda packet, you have a resolution for National Public Safety Telecommunications Week to be scheduled for April 10th through the 16th, 2022. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas an emergency occurs, the prompt response from the sheriff's deputies, firefighters, and EMS is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our sheriff's deputies, EMS, and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Castle County Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first responders and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our sheriff's deputies, EMS, and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunications in Castle County 911 have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Castle County, therefore be it resolved that the County Commissioners of Castle County declares the week of April 10th through the 16th, 2022 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Castle County in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe.
Any questions?
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, we'll do roll call voting. Mr. Dickerson?
Aye.
Mr. Howell? Mr. Jeffries? Mr. Owen? Mr. Ostrogger? McVeigh? Aye. Motion carries. County manager's update.
Commissioners, I don't have any updates at this time. I'm happy to give you any updates that you'd like on any subject, but if you don't have any questions for me, I don't necessarily have any updates at this time.
Commissioner comments?
Well, Chairman, I have one comment. I went to Florida and I did attend that, excellent session that you put me on. It was very interesting. We had one thing, and Commissioner Owens, I think that the director did talk to us about, a foster kid. But we have to pay the money first up front. And then they did talk about getting all 31 candidates to talk to the county commission about getting the legislation to come up and talk with them that some county might not be able to pay a subsidized county. So I asked the county manager to get with the director and come up with something to get the legislation. Some things I thought were very interesting. And my computer one, I had last hour, 35 minutes, and I didn't have a choice. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any more comments? If not, we'll move on to announcements and upcoming events. April 11th, 22, Caswell Economic Development Meeting at 1 p.m. April 18th, 22, Board of Commissioners Meeting at 6:30. April 22nd, 22, Earth Day Festival from 1 to 6 p.m. in the Yanceyville Pavilion. And on May 6th, 22, joint meeting with the Board of Education at 10:30 at School Board Office. And May 12th, 22, joint meeting with the Town of Milton and the Town of Yanceyville at 6 p.m. at the Coast Guard. Is there any more announcements? Yes. Sir?
Question.
Yes, sir.
This is a very good list of upcoming events,
Yes, sir.
but I didn't see anything on here for the Board of Elections. Didn't we request a meeting with them?
We had requested one and we finally said we just wouldn't do
Ooh, okay.
it. Any more questions? Answers? If not, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go into closed session to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee, which privilege is hereby acknowledged by NCGS 143-318, period 11, parentheses A, parentheses 6, and also to discuss matters related to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, NC 143-318, period 11, parentheses A, parentheses 4.
We have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Any more discussion? If not, we'll do roll call voting. Mr. Dickerson? Mr. Dickerson?
It's cracking up bad.
We're got a motion to go into closed session. We're voting.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Howell. Mr. Jeffries. Mr. Owen. Mr. Ostrogger. McVeigh. Motion carried. We will now sit in closed session. We are now back in open session. We need a motion on the terms of contract.
Chairman, I move that we approve both employment contracts for specifically for the assistant county manager and the deputy county manager. Do I need to name names?
No.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve these contracts. We'll do roll call voting. Mr. Dickerson is no longer with us. Commissioner Howell. Commissioner Jeffries. Commissioner Owen. Commissioner Odestriker.
Aye.
Commissioner McVeigh. Aye. Motion carries. Any more questions? Or I want to extend before we leave condolences to Miss Eastwood and her family for the loss of her father this past week from the board. And we keep her in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Is there any more questions or anything else that needs to go before the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any more questions? All in favor, we'll do roll call voting. Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Jeffries. Commissioner Owens. Commissioner Odestriker. Aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned.